Hi, welcome back to the show. My name is Nelda. In today's video, we're going to be reacting to a clip of President Mugabe, who has now passed away. He was one of the former presidents of Zimbabwe, and Mugabe was being questioned by a British reporter. And he said something that is very, very interesting, which I want to address today. This idea that oftentimes when anything to do with Africa is being criticized by a non-African, there are times when it's genuine criticism and people actually are curious and they care. But sometimes people do this from a position of superiority. They do it from a position of like, oh my gosh, look at us, we're so much better than you guys. Like, oh my gosh, these little puny little Africans, they have no idea what they're doing with their lives. That is exactly what we're going to address today. So watch the clip with me and see what you notice before I tell you what exactly I'm going to be addressing today from that video.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember me, sir. May I just ask you one question, sir? On what basis do you now regard yourself as President of Zimbabwe?
On the same basis as Mr. Brown regards himself as Prime Minister.
Sir, you don't want your security man here to beat me up in front of you, I'm sure.
Yeah, but don't ask stupid questions.
Okay, but then, sir, say what you would like to say, sir.
But we are not a British colony. Come on, you must know that. Tell him again.
Right.
Tell him again. We are not a British colony. What have the British to do with Zimbabwe? Who are you? You bloody idiots.
What do the British have to do with Zimbabwe? That's my question. As a matter of fact, what does anybody have to do with Zimbabwe? What does anybody have to do with Nigeria? What does anybody have to do with Tanzania? What does anybody have to do with any country in Africa? That is the question we're addressing today, because yes, we shouldn't live in an echo chamber of just the same people praising each other and telling ourselves like, oh my gosh, we're doing so great. And recently, actually, the president of Tanzania said something very similar. I can't find the clip of it. I tried. But she was essentially talking about the criticism that Tanzania was getting from the international community about a lot of things that are happening in Tanzania. Now, I am not saying, because a lot of people will say, oh, so you don't want Africa to be criticized. Africans can do no wrong. No. Africans can do a lot of wrong. As a matter of fact, Mugabe, who we just saw in the clip, did a lot of wrong. He did not do well for Zimbabwe. And we all know that. Anybody who's sane will agree to that. Now, the issue that I have with this is what Mugabe said. He said, we're not a British colony anymore. You must know that. Because when colonialism was happening, before it even began, there were stages to how we were able to be colonized very easily. Yeah, we were weaker in terms of our weapons and all of that. We cannot deny that, guys. We were not prepared. But at the same time, there was a lot of psychological breakdown in the sense that particularly Christianity as a religion, it was used as a tool of colonialism. Christianity as a religion, I think it's very, very good. I'm a Christian, guy, so of course I'm biased. But it was used as a way to present a lot of things that had to do with the West as superior, that these are the ways to go. These are ways that are better than what you barbaric little puny monkey-looking people are doing. That's essentially how a lot of African cultures were broken down. We were told that the way we treat our women was worse, which we're going to address very shortly. A lot of African traditions were treating women absolutely terribly. So there are things that we did deserve to be criticized about. And even to this day, there's still things about the way African governments are being run that needs to be criticized, both by Africans and non-Africans. The question, though, is from what place are these criticisms coming from? Because are they coming from a place of genuine care and curiosity? Very, very rarely. Now, I believe, for example, if you look at people criticizing female genital mutilation, I think it's a genuine concern. I'm genuinely concerned. Now, the women in my tribe do not, both of my parents' tribes, because they're from two different tribes in Tanzania, the women in both of our tribes do not get circumcised. But when I hear the women from the Maasai, for example, who are both in Kenya and Tanzania getting circumcised, I'm like, something is wrong here. Okay, something is missing. These women should not be mutilated for the sake of a man feeling jealous of them being able to pleasure themselves. That's just a fact. And so you can criticize other people's cultures, and I think cultures should be criticized to some extent. But if that is coming from a place of, oh my gosh, look at us, we're so much better than you, that is where this concept of cultural relativism comes in. Now, the simplest definition of this is cultural relativism is when you're looking at somebody else's culture from your culture's lens. I'll give you an example. If in our household, I'm used to getting home and then I take off my shoes and I clean my feet and then that's when I step into the house. If I go to somebody else's house and I see that they're not doing that, and then I'm like, oh my God, these barbaric people, they don't even clean their feet before entering the house. Like, I'm so physical, I'm so civilized. Look at me. That is basically cultural relativism at play. Now, what needs to happen oftentimes is you can, yes, look at other people's cultures from your perspective, but then ask, why do they do the things that they do? Okay, ask, why do they do this, for example? I'll give you an example of certain African traditions that I think have been unfairly criticized, and I'm going to pull up my notes really quickly. So, extended family living is something that I've always admired, maybe because I have lived in an extended family myself. My family is very complicated. We're not going to get into it, but there was a time in our house there was 13 people, and yeah, we survived. And when my mom needed help with raising us, we essentially did raise each other, but her sisters would help. Her sisters' kids who were much older would come help. My grandmothers would come help and live with us. And a lot of African traditions, I have a list here, like the Baganda from Uganda, the Bemba from Zambia, the Yoruba from Nigeria, Akan from Ghana, the Maasai who are in Tanzania and Kenya, the Zulu from South Africa, the Ndebele from Zimbabwe, the Wolof from Senegal, the Hausa from Niger and Nigeria, the Asa from South Africa. All these different tribes across the continent, all spread out. Most of them encourage this idea of extended family living, the idea that as a community we're not meant to live individually. To this day, I'm 25 years old, I'm a single woman, no kids, but oftentimes I think of like, oh my gosh, there will come a time when I genuinely want to have children, but if I want to have the 3 kids that I want to have, and I also want to be a corporate baddie, and I also want to run my businesses, and I'm also very ambitious, I want to get an education, how am I going to take care of my kids? You know, when you hear people say it takes a village to raise kids, it did used to take a village. Now it takes a nanny from a website, a woman who could potentially be a sex offender, bathing your kids, seeing them naked. I feel very uncomfortable with that idea. And so I'm like, okay, our cultures were criticized, but at the same time, individualism was introduced into our communities. And I think I prefer extended family living over individualism and individualistic ways of life. And that's just me. If you disagree, let me know why you disagree in the comment section. The other tradition that I think has been very heavily criticized for absolutely no reason, but actually, and I guess the feminists are going to come after me, it's the bride price or dowry. Now, okay, the way it has been presented is that dowries or bride prices is you're paying for the woman. It's as if you're like paying the value of that woman. And I disagree. The way the bride price was explained to me when I was a kid, because I was very offended when I found out, it was explained to me that it is a way of thanking the parents for raising somebody who was going to make your home. Because like it or not, a majority of the times it's women who make the home. They're the ones who decide the kind of environment you have when you come from work or when they come from work. They're the people who are going to be pushing out your babies, and they're the ones who are going to spend a majority of their time with the babies. So it's a way of thanking the parents, being like, oh my gosh, you've raised the person who's going to bring life, who's going to create my home for me. Now, you could argue, yes, men have their role as well. Maybe we should be paying bride prices for the men the way the Indians do. But I think bride prices are actually a good thing because, like, hello, women are precious. Men are precious as well. But I think the fact that women have a massive role to play in homemaking, you're thanking the parents for raising them in a way that they can take care of a home. We can get into the ins and outs of, like, oh, why are men not raised to take care of a home, yada, yada, yada. But I think for now, I personally don't have an issue with the bride price. Now, my father said he's not going to accept a bride price, which is fine. he's very much a modern father. But I don't think bride prices are something we should get rid of or something that should be criticized per se. And a lot of tribes in Africa, actually, across different countries in the continent, practice this tradition. The Kikuyus from Kenya, the Ashanti from Ghana, the Dinka from South Sudan. There's actually a lady on TikTok who went viral because men were fighting to give her father cows and cattle and all of that stuff because she's just so precious. And I was like, pop off, queen. There's the Fon from Benin, the Himba from Namibia, the Madinka from Gambia, the Berbers or the Mazig from Morocco and Nigeria, the Luo from Kenya again popping up, the Fang from Gabon. I mean, my mom is Jita from Tanzania, close to the Serengeti area. My dad had to pay a bride price. Europe. So I think it's a very good tradition, and I hope somebody pays a bride price for me. My dad is not gonna accept it, but it's fine. So I don't think this was a tradition that we should have necessarily criticized as intensely. And the feminists, you can disagree with me. I'm happy to hear you guys out. The last tradition that I want to talk about is traditional medicine and healing. Because tell me why these people tried to convince us to take paracetamol while the ingredients of paracetamol are actually ingredients that you can take from trees. Like my great-grandmother, my maternal great-grandmother, so my mom's grandmother, was actually a traditional healer. She was not a witch, by the way. She could use medicine like trees and plants and all of this stuff to actually help people with their illnesses. And then people came and they're like, no, actually, you guys need pills. And a lot of the times, there was a scandal actually in Tanzania when COVID-19 happened, and Tanzanians were like, no, we don't care, we're going to take traditional medicines. And people mocked us about it. And Tanzania, we declared ourselves COVID-free within a month in 2020. Some people did die, by the way, it's not funny. But I think there is a space for traditional medicine and traditional healing, not to be confused with witchcraft. So I think there's a space for it, because when you look at a lot of these pills and a lot of these things that modern medicine and pharmaceuticals are using, they're actually from trees that are very publicly available. Like the neem tree, for example, in Swahili we call it morobaini. You can use it for virtually everything. The last time I got malaria was when I was in, like, I think middle school. My grandmother made me drink this tea she made from the bark of the neem tree. I have never gotten malaria since. She came to visit us and she was like, oh, this girl is getting malaria every other week. No, I'm gonna fix that. She fixed it like that. Okay, the mosquitoes have been biting me, and the mosquitoes in Tanzania are very violent. But look at me striding away. So again, there are multiple tribes that have had traditional medicine at the very forefront, like the San from Botswana and Namibia. And I think there's a Khoisan from South Africa as well, the Ewe from Ghana and Togo, the Shilluk from South Sudan, the Igbos from Nigeria, very known for traditional medicine as well, the Tutsis from Rwanda and a little bit in Burundi as well, the Chokwe from Angola and the DRC, the Congo people from the DRC and Congo a little bit, I think, and Angola, the Sanufo from Ivory Coast and Mali and Burkina Faso, that little area, the Meru from Kenya. So many tribes across the continent, traditional healing, traditional medicine, very, very real. But now when you talk about African traditional healing, people are like, it's witchcraft, it doesn't work. But when you talk about Chinese medicine, everybody's like, oh my gosh, yes, tell me the yin and the yang. No. Let us be careful when people are criticizing African traditions. There's some that are really good, like I said, traditional healing, your bride prices, I think they're really, really good. At the same time, there is, of course, polygamy, wife beating, wife inheritance, which are very negative. So when we're being criticized, or when we're also criticizing our own cultures, let's ask ourselves, where is this criticism coming from? Is it genuine? Or is it just like, oh my gosh, these other traditions are superior compared to African traditions, and so we should do away with our traditions? So hopefully this is a nice video as well. Hopefully it's helpful. Let me know what you like, what you don't like, and feel free to subscribe, to like, to share, to comment. And as always, you will see me in the next video. Bye!